When you're working on a project in Premiere that has a lot of video clips and a lot of audio clips, you can see all these audio clips are in their own separate folder, it can be a real pain in the ass to sync them all up. On top of that, the audio overruns the video by quite a bit. In fact, it should look something like this because there are 3 tracks from the recorder. And if you were to try to sync it up with Premiere's Synchronize tool, it just won't do it because it's not made for this amount of audio. On top of that, the audio clip is very unlikely to match the video clip, and there is also multiple channels. This would take a very long time to sync up all the audio, and in fact, if you were to do it this way, it would be easier doing it by hand. And of course, some of the audio overruns the video because the recorder wasn't stopped recording, but the video was, and so there are maybe 1 or 2 audio tracks that go over 5 or 6 different video clips. This again could be very difficult and time consuming to synchronize. So in this video I am going to show you how to sync an abundance of audio to a lot of video in just a few simple clicks. Now for this to work you need to have everything in one folder. It cannot be in their own audio video folders. In fact, it's best to do this at the very start of your edit, and then you can organize all of the clips later. So I'm going to clear out the project and start from scratch, and I will import all of the video first, and then I'll import the audio, and of course the audio is in their own separate folders, and I could do this for each audio folder, and it might take a while, but instead of that, because I know these are all WAV files, I'm going to go into the main audio directory from the recorder, and I'm going to search .wav, the audio, well, the file extension for the audio clips, and you can see it's found 78 clips. I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to import them into the project. A much quicker way of doing this. Now I've got everything imported, I'm going to expand the browsing window and I'm going to select everything. I'm going to hit Ctrl A. Now for this to work we're going to use the create multicam source sequence. However, we'll be using audio, but it's not available. That is because there are some clips that don't have audio in. You can see these ones over here do not have the audio icon. That's because they are slow motion, so I'm going to deselect them. And any other clips that do not have audio, see they've got the audio icon, that is the audio icon, these do not. I believe that is the only clips that don't have audio, and so I'm going to do right click, create multicam source sequence, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it main, something I can easily find amongst all of this mess of audio and video. I want audio selected, I want to check this, move source clips to process clips bin, enumerate cameras, and that's all you need to do. I'm going to hit OK. Now, because there is about 3 hours of video and audio here, it's going to take some time. However, if you had less, maybe 10-20 minutes, this would be done very, very fast, of course, depending on your system. Either way, we'll come back once this is done. It should take about 10 or 11 minutes. Okay, now it's done processing, you will get this error message. This just means that some clips couldn't be synchronized. This is inevitable, especially for tracks that are not very long and video clips that just don't have much detail. So I'm going to click OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a few separate bins to organize this out. First of all, I'm going to create a bin, call it sequence, and then I'm going to call it another bin called synced clips, and now I have loads of sequences called main. These are all of the sequences by which it's found an audio match. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of the main clips, or whatever you call your sequences, and the process clips into the synced clips folder. Then I'm going to do no match, sure we'll call it this, which is clips that did not have a match. And if I just quickly drag these into the timeline, we'll see why they didn't have a match. Of course, these slow motion ones don't have any audio, and these audio tracks don't have anything on. That's because nothing was plugged in and the track was still recording. This track over here has very little detail and is quite short, and same as this one, it's another very short track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that and delete that sequence. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the sequence bin, file, new sequence. We'll create a new 1080p sequence right there. There we go. I'm going to go into the synced clips, and I am going to drag all of these main sequences to the timeline. And as you can see, it looks very busy. Now, as you've dragged these to the timeline, you can delete these sequences. You don't need them, as all of the clips are in the timeline. Just sort of organizes the project up a little bit. So, as you can see, this is exactly how it should be. You have the 3 audio tracks and the camera audio. Now, in order to ensure a successful outcome, the output from the recorder was plugged directly into the camera. This means that the camera was hearing the exact same thing the recorder has. This gives Premiere more of a chance to sync the audio with the video. However, if your recorder was not plugged into your camera, you may still have a chance of syncing it. It just won't be as good, and you may get more clips that didn't match. Over here, you can see there are some stray audio tracks. This happens sometimes Premiere isn't always perfect, and it sometimes matches audio from the recorder to itself, so I'm just going to delete that as it's only a few seconds. I can move all of this down, sort of organize it up a little bit. Over here we have 1 recorder track and 2 video clips. This just means that the recorder wasn't stopped, but the camera was, and therefore these 2 sync up. So I can move that down just to keep it all organized. Over here, it seems that the recorder was not recording, but the camera was on. So this is probably a clip that I probably won't end up using in the edit. And then again, we have the recorder was still recording, but the video was not. So I can just move them all down. Here we have a bit more of a more severe case. Here is sort of a little anomaly. This is Premiere being weird and is syncing parts of the audio recorder to itself, so that shouldn't be there. In fact, if I cut this, it should be somewhere here. That just makes it a bit more understanding. So what I can do is I can move all of these down, being careful not to move them out of sync. And because I know they're all synced, I don't quite need the audio clips, so I can delete them like that. Again, over here, the recorder wasn't stopped, but the video was, and therefore I can just move them up. Over here, it seems like it's got a little bit confused. It's done the same thing where it's synced parts of the recorder to itself, and so I'm just going to cut that and move it elsewhere in the timeline. Seems that the video was only rolling for a few minutes, but the recorder was not. I can confirm.
Hello, Molly.
It syncs. It's perfect. Now you will get a few instances of this. You will just have to sort through and double check everything. This one seems a little bit more confusing. However, it seems that this audio goes with this video clip, and so I'm going to cut it, move it to the end of the timeline. Anything else I need to be aware of? I don't think there is. I think everything is all perfectly matched up. You can move this down, probably trim out all this. The downside to this method is your video is not in the order that it was recorded in. In fact, if I were to drag one of the first clips into the timeline, we might be able to see, so it's a blue clip there. Wonder where that is. It's right here. You can see the little marker is the same as this here. Sort this out. You could go into your assembly window. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag all of the video in the correct order, and you would be able to do it by color code. So if I just remove some of these clips here, you can see by the color code it would be a lot easier. But anyway, you now have a very quick, easy and simple way to sync all of your audio to your video, and what you choose to do next is up to you. You can delete the no match folder. You can now create bins and organize your video from your audio. and you can start to edit.